I guess we'll talk about where the title of the book came from. But in the book, I talk about this concept of standing in the gap for other folks. Yeah. And I think it's something we really need to lean into right now. And I recount a story from the campaign trail in 2016. And I was in, some northeastern part of the United States. We were outside at this overflow rally. Not like what Donald Trump said he was going to have on Saturday, because there was no overflow. There was an actual overflow, okay? About 500 people outside. And I was working for Senator Sanders. He went out to address the crowd. We were out there having a good time. Okay, we go inside and we're walking to go in. And it is myself, our trip director, the senator, and some folks. And a state trooper ends up running up and attempting to yank me out of the entourage. He's yelling, screaming, telling me to move to the side. Now, I was the only Black woman in the entourage. My colleague that was standing next to me is a tall African-American man named Paul. And as the state trooper put his hands on me to pull me out of the entourage, it was Paul that grabbed me and stopped and told the state trooper, "Excuse me, do we have a problem? This is the National Press Secretary." And the state trooper stepped back and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know." And I said, "Oh, well, because the Black girl couldn't have been with Bernie Sanders?" And I turn around and I tell the senator and the folks that were standing there with him, I said, "This is what I'm always talking about." But in that moment, Paul said, we're going to go. We got work to do. I said, "Yes, we're not going to let the devil mess with us today." And we go inside. But, no one else there probably remembers that moment. But I remember it because, it is seared into my brain. Paul stood in the gap for me in that moment. And I think we all have experiences, definitely probably not as visceral as that, but in our everyday lives, we have experiences and moments where we can and need to stand in the gap for other people, especially right now. We got to do it.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think your story points to what is so indelible about cross-cultural dialogue and allies and having people, both to be able to share the story and then others who can hear it and apply the story to their own journey. Man, I just can't even imagine someone of your stature. Well, I can. This is America.
Okay, you Dr. Sean, come on now.
Yeah, you're right.
Profile Oprah in Italy. Come on now.
Yeah, I totally corrected myself. Now listen, before we move on too far, because it kind of relates to what the story you just told. Tell everybody where the story connected to where the name for the book came from.
So I was on television one morning as a CNN commentator. It was in the aftermath of Charlottesville. And I was on with a gentleman named Ken Cuccinelli, former Attorney General of Virginia, currently works for the Trump administration. And we were having a conversation, and he was not using the facts. And, if anyone's seen me on TV, I don't mind interrupting you just to, set the record straight. And I interrupted Ken a time or two, and he was interrupting me. And I guess the last time I interrupted him, he did not take to it too kindly. And he said, "Symone, will you just shut up for a minute and let me talk? How do you get them to be quiet? They just won't stop talking." So I'm like, I'm sitting right here. And I had to say in that moment, I said, I told Ken he should shut up and that he is trying to excuse white supremacy on this program. So I had to defend myself. Chris Cuomo, it was his show. It was when he was on in the morning. He jumped in and he was more than my ally. He was my accomplice. He stepped in and said, "Yo, we don't talk to people like that on this show." Ken told me I should apologize to him. I said, "He's not getting an apology." And so I named the book "No, You Shut Up" because so many of us have been given the proverbial shut up, Dr. Sean. And now is the time where we actually need to speak up and not shut up. So we're going to reclaim our power. We're going to speak truth, and we're going to say it loud.
Yeah, reclaiming my time.
Yes, and the iconic words of Auntie Maxine.
Absolutely. And I think what's amazing about that is that Black women particularly have had to go through moments like that and have to defend more than just their voices, right? Defend their right to stand in those spaces and to enunciate what they believe in ways that other groups, including Black men, don't always have to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was Donna Brazile once who told me about the isms. Okay, she said, I was having a tough time at work in 2016, and I called her complaining, trying to get some sympathy, and Donna Brazile had no sympathy for me. She had some tough love and some words, and she was like, "Well, if you can't handle this, perhaps this isn't the job for you." And I was kind of taken aback by that, and I had to sit with it for a couple of days. When I called Donna back, what she was saying was, the isms, racism, ageism, sexism. We have to work to combat it. We have to call it out when we see it. We are working to eradicate it. But we also, especially as people of color, as Black folks, as Black women, we have to also how to figure out how to navigate through it. And I think that is one of the biggest and most important lessons I have learned in my short little career. And I think it's something that we can all identify with. We have to figure out how to navigate through it so we can change the conversation and the outcome.
Yeah, you have to have thick skin. I started my professional career right out of college in politics. I worked for a United States congressman out in New York. And you have to have thick skin to be in politics. If you're sensitive and take things personal, it just ain't the profession for you.
It might not be for you, okay?
And what's amazing now is you are a senior advisor to the Biden campaign. And let me just say this, what a campaign this has been.
It's been a wild ride. It feels like the campaign has been going on for like 2 years, okay? It's only been a little over a year, almost a year and a half. And we are 134 days away from Election Day.
Wow. And what's amazing about this campaign, let's put aside for a second COVID and protests, right? As if we can, but let's put it aside. Just the trajectory of the campaign, starting where it started, you had the Sanders, whatever you call it, the rise, and Biden after South Carolina takes off and never looks back. In those beginning days, was there a little anxiety and fear about what was going on, or did you guys always know we got this, stay the course, is going to be fine?
We always knew it would be a fight, but Vice President Biden got into the race for president because he believed that we were in a battle for the soul of this nation. And frankly, I think his words ring more true now than ever, given what the country is experiencing. And so throughout the course of the primary, it was rough and rocky, okay? It was a fight, 24 candidates at one point in time were in the race, lots of debate stages, lots of crazy moments and travel. But our theory was always that the base of the Democratic Party, Black voters, people of color, have to be able to have a say in this process. And you're not going to get the depth and breadth of the party having a say in just Iowa or just New Hampshire. You got to get to Nevada. You have to get to South Carolina. And then on Super Tuesday, where the majority of Southern states vote, that is when we will know if the Democratic Party as a whole has spoken. And when they spoke, they chose Vice President Biden. One, because I believe that they believe, voters, that Joe Biden was our best chance to beat Donald Trump as Democrats. But two, voters know Joe Biden. They believed in his vision. They believed in what he said on the campaign trail. So now we're in a situation where we are working to earn the votes of folks across this country. We got to get to 270 electoral college votes. And we think we can beat Donald Trump. And we, in my opinion, I don't think, let me just speak for myself. I cannot handle another 4 years of the last 4 weeks, Dr. Sean. I can't do it. I'm refusing to do it. So I'm doing everything in my power to get Joe Biden elected.
I'm with you. And since Vice President Biden is the presumptive nominee, I'm doing everything I can as well. But I want to ask you this to make sure that I cover bases. As the Vice President works to get the votes of Black and Brown people, what are some of the policy initiatives that he is imagining he might put in place if he ascends to the presidency of this country that would affect the lives of Black and Brown people?
Well, we have put out, or we've been talking a lot about a safer reopening and jobs in the economy. And as I noted, the majority of disproportionately, it is Black and Brown people in this country who have been affected by the pandemic. And so we're actually rolling out very soon our jobs plan, because we don't just need to build back to where we were before. We have to build back better, Dr. Sean. We can't go back to how it was before. It's not going to be good enough. It will not meet this moment, and Vice President Biden is focused on meeting the moment. So we'll be doing targeted engagement and activity with African-American and Latino voters around that plan. But separately from that, we have a comprehensive agenda for Black America. And I think that's important because we put that out once we were the presumptive nominee. Oftentimes you get these plans for Black and Brown folks in the primary, and then people make a general election pivot to talk to some other voters. We are being very clear that African-American voters are a key part of our general election strategy. And that plan for Black America really speaks to the fact, it's bold, but it speaks to the fact that race neutral policies are not sufficient for race-based issues in the system across this country, whether it's education, whether it's business, whether it's housing. And so that plan is 22 pages, is long, y'all, but it's comprehensive. It's a foundational document for how Vice President Biden will govern, what he will do, and it has a wealth creation agenda that speaks to housing. You know, I'm a young person, young Black woman, and I don't own a home yet. There are many young millennials like myself who don't own homes. Vice President Biden has a plan for a $15,000 advanceable tax credit for first-time home buyers. Okay, that's a lot of money. Advanceable means you don't gotta wait till you file the taxes to get it. We can get it right away. On top of you can combine that with other plans and whatnot are out there. That's important because we know for a lot of folks, Black and brown people in this country, especially, their wealth is in their homes. Right. And in the first, you know, in the crash, in the last Great Recession, many Black folks lost their homes. So we talk about wealth creation. We talk about rooting out the inequities in our healthcare system, our inequities in our education system. We have robust a debt plan, a robust plan for folks who are currently in college. And then there's a strong criminal justice reform piece, because we're talking about police reform a lot right now, but Vice President Biden also believes we need broader criminal justice reform in this country. So I encourage folks to check it out, joebiden.com/Black America. We are doing targeted events all across this country, virtually, most of them right now, talking about this plan with folks, getting their feedback, but making sure folks know what Vice President Biden's plan is and what it is he will do, because that is what is going to make people go to the polls, on top of the fact that Donald Trump is just, you know, tearing our country apart.